Hello, I'm Carmen Lundy, and welcome to Jazz Speaks Art. Hello, I'm Carmen Lundy, and welcome to Jazz Speaks Art. This conversation takes place in my hotel room at the end of a 2-night run at the Velvet Note, a club just outside Atlanta. I asked the artist to join me in an open dialogue about our observations and experiences playing jazz throughout the world. The musicians include bassist Curtis Lundy, drummer Jamison Ross, pianist Louis Heriveaux, and saxophonist Sylvester Stann. I hope you'll enjoy.
Secrets are teardrops coming from the soul, answers to questions waiting to be told. The heartache you feel, it can be healed by the warmth of the hand reaching out for you to hold.
To the Atlanta Center, Cultural Center today. I mean, the College Center.
Yeah.
They got a Ray Charles Theater now. You know, Ray Charles. You know, just like in the movie, he vowed he would never play Georgia again.
Wow.
Just like in that movie. You know, after they wouldn't take down the lines and let black people and white people come together. So he didn't play Georgia for years, and they banned.
I will cut to the chase, my dear. This music that we play and have a very high regard for is not for dummies. If you have read some of the classics and have studied a little bit of the opera, European classical music, and this music that we call jazz or African American classical music, you have to have some kind of mind to really embrace this music and hear this music. And as a people, now we really don't hear it.
Music used to be in the neighborhoods. You know, where you could go to a corner bar.
That's true.
And hear organ trio.
Right?
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that happened because, you know, just like we have post-traumatic slavery disorder, and people, you might try to not go deal with that, but it's real.
It is.
You know, after the riots, a whole lot of communities are still recovering from the riots. Okay, Newark in particular, I will give you an example. You know how many jazz clubs used to be in Newark?
The front room.
We played a few of them.
Right.
Peppermint Lounge.
All that old East Orange, Newark area. Okay?
Yes.
You know, you could go see Gator Tail Jackson at the living room, like you said. You know, and you know, the Club Harlem and Atlantic City and all those clubs. There is no more Chitlin Circuit. It's gone. Okay? And these were all things that were created a lot of times because of segregation. Okay? Now after segregation, they had legs, so they still lived. However, now there's no Chitlin Circuit. And people like George Benson and Jack McDuff and all those organ grinders, that's where they worked. You know, Charles Earlin. They didn't work the rooms that everybody else worked. They had their own circuit. And right now, that doesn't even exist anymore. About this, you know, what needs to happen is, first of all, Jazzmobile needs to go national. We had Showmobile in Miami.
That's right.
Okay.
We had Showmobile.
The Showmobile, and in Kansas City they had a thing called a bandwagon. Okay. where and trust me, in every other community probably had something else, okay? But then that brought the music to the community, and we used to go everywhere on the Showmobile, you know. Then PACE took over.
The PACE, Performing Arts for Community and Education.
Right, they took over what
Right.
Showmobile used to be.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So
we got our start with a lot of those gigs.
Right.
Playing those kind of gigs.
Right.
But,
So Jazzmobile needs to go national. Okay, where there's a Jazzmobile component in every major city. Okay, and at least for 3 months or 2.5 months out of those summer months, the music is being piped into the community. So now you have, like, okay, today I give you a perfect example. My friend Sammy, who was with us,
yeah.
his sons was with us when we went to the radio interview. So after when they got in there, and Jay asked him, "Have you ever been in the radio?" And he's like, "No." So I thought he was just going to drop me off, but his sons were interested. They wanted to see the radio station. So then, after we did the interview and everything, and his son, who's like 6 years old, says, "I want to set the drums."
Wow.
And
Wow.
so now Sammy, now his cat, he's got a biochemist, degree and all that kind of shit and everything. And so he told me how he was that was his daughter you met, who she swore she was going to be the med school and everything, and then she switched out and said, "I want to be a music major." So he was like, "Oh no, why?" You know what I'm saying? But you see, even that. The attitude of a parent.
Yeah,
okay?
the parent.
I want to be an artist. Now, if you said I want to be a visual artist, it might have been all right. And they worse off than musicians. Or I want to be a poet. You know what I mean? But musician, oh no, he panicked. You see what I'm saying? Because there's no future in that. That's what they see. Dinosaurs. You want to make a living playing music? What? That's unheard of. Unless you're a classical musician.
I've spent a lot of time thinking about these things just because I am fortunate to play with people like yourself, even Curtis, and be able to be around some of the greats who have seen the other greats, some of the pioneers of the music, which a lot of my generation, we haven't seen a lot of them. We've seen a few, but not really. Haven't really been able to hang around and feel the energy of how they were as people versus playing. All we have is the records, and we try to imagine what they were like and hear stories from the people who did see them. So from my generation, our perspective is it is quite different because we're searching for more information versus having have experienced it like you guys have. The stories, the conversations. That helps us. Like when we hear those stories and we hear those conversations, we hang on to them and we tell them to other people. Like, man, I heard this about Miles. I heard this about Freddie Hubbard. Man, I heard Freddie. Man, I heard this about Billy Higgins. I heard this about Monk. But we really never met any of them. We just listened to a bunch of records. So what happens is we become extreme students about the music. We become really, really like engulfed in it, learning and searching and because there's that void. When really, to me, I don't think that the generation that's before us, I don't think they necessarily studied the music. They were around it all the time, so they lived it. It's a difference,
There's a difference.
They were at the clubs, when it was going down. So it wasn't about checking out the records. It was about just being in the hang, being around. And that energy starts to rub off on you in the conversation, And that kind of energy you start to resonate with versus talking about records with your peers. You see what I'm saying? So there's a missing link there that I think.
There you go, Curtis.
There's a missing link there that happens for our generation. And so we have a very, I don't think we're serious about it, but it makes us almost kind of like, our perspective is just a little different.
Right.
We can't help
I want
it.
to add something to that though too.
Yeah.
Like with the coming of like YouTube and that access to watching the masters and stuff being easily accessible right there, that kind of took away from the cats in the community that's older, that when I came up it wasn't no YouTube and stuff. So I didn't have access to greats either, you know. But I had access to cats that was in town dealing with the music. I used to seek out cats like this and want to go play and learn from the cats in town that was playing. These younger cats, because there's a lot of stuff that comes from not watching a YouTube video that you can only get on the bandstand with a cat like this. So they thinking they're getting it from records or YouTube, and they're not even seeking out cats like myself now that I'm older, or him in town, you know, that have some experience. So that community thing is big. That's why I really feel what he was saying about this Jazzmobile, so they can see it in person and you know, and transfer it that way instead of looking at a YouTube video and, you know, see some cats playing and see the intangibles, hear the intent, you know, see it right there in your face.
The assessment level of how we think completely changes because we don't do that. So what happens is, like, all the intangibles, like the way we hear, we're listening like, oh man, you know, did you hear what he just played? Versus like, oh man, you peep what he got on, like, you know what I mean? Clean. You see what I'm saying? Like, you kind of, you know, like getting into the, you know, getting into like the mythology of a cat, like getting deep into like something like, you know, like oh man, like even Charles Speck's right. Like there's all kind of other drummers too. People listen to, you know, we talk about, you know, Elvin, and we talk about, you know, the main ones, but there's all kind of other singers,
that's
you know,
what I'm talking
Andrew
about.
Surreal, and all the different, you know, it's an energy. It's a certain thing. And so when you check out the assessment level of our generation, our assessment is, oh man, he sounds great. It's like all music. When really you need to dig deeper. Like actually where you come from.
So you gotta remember that, you know, when the masters were here as a whole, there was schools. Now the schools are universities, but then the schools were bands. You see, that's what has shifted and changed big time. You know, there were like at least 20 bands when I went to New York, at least 20 hard-hitting, major name artist bands that you tried to get on with. Whether it was Dexter, McCoy, Betty, Freddie, Joe Henderson, Woody, Stan Getz,
Blakey,
Art, Max. You know, I mean, I could keep going. You know, there were bands, Dizzy, and there were bands. And like, you know, you went to New York. My whole perspective of New York was looking at album covers, saying, I want to do that. I want to be, you know, one day I want to be on one of these. You know, and that was my driving force to be in New York, that one day I would actually be one of those cats. Now, the thing that kind of really confuses me about the younger generation when it comes to the music is that they don't feel like they need to have anybody with experience or you know, some credence about the music and knows, you know, actually knows the ins and outs of the music. They don't feel like they need it. You know, where we used to seek those guys out, you know. And I think it's by design where sometimes it seems like the record companies also overlook people like, you know, the ones who have paid their dues and like put the time, you know, especially in the African American community. We seem to be overlooked, you know. It always needs to be a gimmick when it comes to us. You know. It's always needs to be a gimmick, whereas when it's everybody else, they can just play the music and be an artist. But we have to have a gimmick.
That is the gripe of our generation too. The gripe of our generation is, and not even just our generation, the age-old beat-down question that divides, I feel like, the jazz community is rather to create in the spirit of today, of now, or to create, you know,
or recreate.
That is the question that separates the entire jazz community. I mean, literally, it's split. Like New York, it's like split. Then you have the people who actually kind of come in the middle. And to me personally, I think that's the way it's supposed to be done. I think with perspective of the past, with the respect and your homage of the past, you can create in the now. But for me, when you act like none of that matters, or your music sounds as though none of that matters.
Right.
You know, because that, you know what I'm saying, that's the issue. You know, granted, you have some of my peers in my generation who, yeah, their music sounds like none of it matters. I'm not saying that they may not, they may not, and honestly, I'll be honest, some of them don't actually check out a lot of it at all. You couldn't go down the rabbit hole with a lot of records and a lot of, you know, the history of the music with them, you know. Especially if you're talking about like pre-1940, 1930, oh, it gets real weak then, you know? It gets like feeble, you know? Because then it's like, no, you know, everything is kind of like, you know, 68 up, you know, like maybe 64, you know, and up, you know, from there, from our generation. And even in our generation, we talk about it. We have to split with our generation between us. We have to split. So, of course, it's going to be a split in regards to our.
How come there's no featured, like even the artists that are up for Grammys that are jazz artists, the ones that are up for the best, whatever, they don't even get airtime on the Grammys. Apparently, that when jazz plays on the Grammys, the ratings go down.
That would
Like I was hitting the gut.
But they go up if country music plays.
Yeah, this music is not for dummies.
Okay.
Wow.
This music is not for dummies.
This music is not for dummies.
In that case, though, I don't think we should actually try to even get the music in the mainstream. I think we should just do exactly what we feel is. I mean, if it's not for dummies, and this music is for a select few people, I think our intent should be a little bit different.
See, I don't think it's for a select few people. I think it just has not been marketed to the masses. Okay, let's just say this.
In the time.
Right. Where is any television footage in the last 15 years
None.
of jazz?
None.
If a rapper wrote it, it's going to be heard. If you want to hear or see anybody that does anything with art as it relates to music or art in a whole, you don't turn to CBS, NBC, or ABC. You turn to PBS. And you might find something. Okay? Now, with all these cable networks, the Bravo network, and all this one, and all this OWN, and all this, tell me one jazz show that's on television. And all the cable networks, all the discs and all that, one jazz show that comes on that's consecutive, that comes on every week or every day, or not one.
That's a sad statement.
Now think about that. Think about all the programming that's all over the nation.
All the channels,
There's not one program that comes on and say, this is Jazz in America Today. Well, now tell me why that is. They have a country music network. And everybody wants to think, well, why is he so down on country music? Because it's not the indigenous music of this country. Jazz is. How come there's no jazz network? Right. So you know,
that's
really think about that though. Out of all the programming in America, there is not one jazz program that says for an hour of a day, for 1 week, every week, it says, here, America, this is your music. This is jazz. Zero. You got MTV, you got Country Music Network, you got
VH1.
You got
BET.
Yeah, you got all that. VH1, all that stuff. When you get your national endowment grant from the president and everything, you about to check out. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. Wait a minute.
Run that back.
Just for men. That's what I'm talking about. That shit you put in your hair to dye your hair. You know, that's when you get ready to get your award and shit. You know.
Suppose you have any fucking hair to dye, then what?
Yeah. You know, but I'm saying. You know, I mean, really, but you know, you think about that. That to me, that hurts.
Yeah.
You know, something that people have lived their life for. You know, died. You know, blood, sweat, and tears. You know, and you can't even show me one programming network that says, okay, we're gonna pay homage to jazz.
Wow.
It just doesn't happen.
Wow.
Okay? And you can
Wow.
talk about every other music. The gospel music got their own network.
You're right.
So,
VH1, all that stuff. Where's the jazz? Where's that 1 hour component of jazz where you say these are the masters? Where is it? So, you know, you think about that. You know, so, you know, Nicholas, and I respect all that stuff y'all doing and all that other stuff that everybody else is doing. But just address that one thing. Let's have let's have 1 hour a week where we have a show that addresses the jazz community and what's happening in the jazz community. 1 hour a week, you know? But, you know, I would probably say that the classical is see, that's the funny thing about it. That they want to put classical music and jazz in the same in the same category in terms of not earning power. Okay. However, the classical musicians get stipends and endowments and all
Retirement
kinds.
funds,
Right.
and
And the symphonies have people who donate to subscribe and also keep the symphony. They support the symphony.
Right.
They have a building for the symphonies.
That's right.
They have opera houses.
That's it.
Like I said, in every major city, there's an opera house, there's a classical place for the symphony to perform, there's a jazz house. You might have a couple of little, you might have a little rinky-dink clubs here and there.
Right.
But where's the performing space for the jazz?
That's it.
You know?
There you go, man.
You know, the House of Blues. Y'all share it. You know? That's really a part of the whole thing, man. It's like they want to keep you at the bottom of the economic structure and then, you know, steal everything from the art form and say, okay, perfect example. Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett do a record. It's a hit!
yeah, it was a hit.
Just don't look like us, but it's a hit. See, so now who can we pair together who looks like us that can make that kind of hit?
Great question, man.
And make that kind of money.
Right, and you know, go on tour. You know, you got Herbie and Chick on tour now. You know,
I can't think of anybody.
No.
that they could pair together like that in our world and say, okay, you guys go ahead and get together and make a record and go ahead and get paid and tour. Who could you put together to do that? Gigs pay this, performances pay that. And that's on that.
That's a good point of view. I've never
Yeah,
heard that.
that's
You know,
pretty
but
great.
think about it.
That's good.
I think, you know, for our generation, the thing is we have to sacrifice possibly, this may sound kind of crazy, but we have to actually put more time into the what's coming up behind us, you know, in order to really make it change. You see what I'm saying? Because I think when we talked about the bandwagon and the music being in the neighborhoods, and so what I realized is there's some balance that has to happen now where we kind of start to put it back into the kids young, you know? And the catch is putting it back into them, putting it back to them raw. Don't put it back to them just about jazz, but put it back to them about creative expression. And you should get the artist rolling back again. See, that's the catch. The artist gets quenched because everybody wants to make money and achieve the pop culture status. But with artistry, it takes time, it takes development, it takes patience, it takes a true commitment. And they have to even see it and see the power and how it affects them in order for them to want to do it. So there's a balance that has to happen now for us to even try to fix, not even try to fix it, because the thing is, I don't think it's even, the heart can't be to fix it. The heart is to actually leave this earth with someone else having a change of heart or a change of view, you know, perspective on it. Because we can't touch everybody. All we can do is hope for that and hope that we can band together and realize that actually that the little kids who, you know, listening to Beyonce should know something about, you know, Duke Ellington playing on stage. You see to like, you know, really trying to pull, just sowing the seed to more that they don't get it. They don't get it. None of I've seen it. You know.
You know, Jamison, I hear what you're saying, and you made me think about one thing you know, I really want to kind of surmise about a lot of things that are happening on the scene with this. Okay, how many times have you seen in all the major cities? I'll give you the example that happens in Miami. It's called Jazz in the Gardens. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's the biggest crock of bullshit that has ever happened in the name of jazz. Yeah, okay? Now, I have to say that even though some of the artists that perform on some of these venues like Jazz in the Garden, I love them. But they're not jazz.
I agree.
And what they do is they use the name of jazz to get a certain type of demographic of people to come. Grown folks who are going to spend money, who want to be in something and relate to, right, and don't want to be around the riffraff, if you will, for the lack of a better term. Okay, so they have.
I would like to do a country and western album. No bullshit. I would like to do a country and western album because it tells a story. And another thing, everybody can identify with that kind of shit, and there's never been a tenor saxophone player that has played Born to Lose. I'm da dooba dooba do boo boo do boo boo do beeba, and it don't have to be as simple. Do 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 ching ching ching. Be dee 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 little boo boo dee dee boo bee 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 da da da. Just stop down yonder, shop ba do ba do ba da la do ba ba do ba do da ching 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 ching. Born to Lose.
Maybe we should do Jazz for Dummies. Maybe that's it.
Go to the fucking bank. Well, but guess what? Wynton and Willie Nelson did it.
Go ahead.
Ain't that a bitch?
And Wynton. Yeah, Wynton and Willie Nelson.
Wake
It's
me
been
up.
done. I'm sorry, man. It's been done.
It's been
Wake
did.
me up.
It's been did.
It's been did. Everybody made money.
It had to be.
I have a lot of these thoughts that I don't get to express. It's not like I pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Jamison, what's up?" and then we have this conversation, right?
Right.
And I can be on tour for 2 weeks, and we don't ever sit and really talk about it because we're so busy, tired, and trying to get to the next gig. We're not really taking a moment to observe what's happening to us and what the people are, what's going on, you know. And I looked out at that audience tonight. And I told him, the first time I was like, I'm not convinced.
I like what you said.
I'm not
In the
really
front,
convinced here.
no applause. Motherfuckers like this here.
Well, certain people, they almost in awe of shit too. See?
Yeah, but
Cause see, like a lot of people, you gotta realize they never seen no shit like that.
Especially now.
Yeah, right.
I did a little master class in an elementary school here, jazz trio, and one of the kids didn't know what we was gonna play. Right, so we started playing, and then when we finished playing the first song, about to talk about music, all black kids, one of them came up and said, "Man, why y'all playing that white folks music?" So they didn't even associate that anymore.
Wow.
That's how far removed they are to realizing that this is their music.
But it just seems